introduce yourself. So I want your name, which club you are representing, okay, and your leadership role within that club.
Start on.
My name is Rebecca Price. I am here representing the 501st Legion. I am the North Texas Squad Lead. And also for the Dark Empire, I am the event coordinator locally.
I am Nicole Humphrey. I am with the Rebel Legion. I am the area captain for the DFW area.
I'm Matthew Robinson. I represent the Mandalorian Mercs Costume Club, and I am the South Central Region Commander. I oversee 9 clans.
I'm Gareth Ortiz-Simpson. I am representing Saber Guild, and I am the costume consular for the Coruscant Temple here locally.
Okay, and I'm Erica Habermill. I will be our moderator today, and my role does not matter beyond that. I have them. They just, we don't need to care about that today. And then just, one more quick down the line. How long has everybody here on the panel been involved with these Star Wars costuming clubs?
I joined the Rebel Legion in May of 2015 and the 501st in March of 2016. And then the Dark Empire somewhere between now and then. I couldn't tell you the date.
Almost a decade back.
Yep.
I joined the 501st in January of 2017 and the Rebel Legion shortly after in 2018. I don't remember when. And TDE, I think just last year.
I think so.
Yeah.
I joined the Mandalorian Mercs in March of 2017. I became a member of the 501st in the Rebel Legion in 2019, I believe.
I started in the Rebel Legion, I want to say, about 9 years ago, and then slowly got involved in the other clubs in the interim, and then Saber Guild was 2 years ago, right? 3.
I don't know, when did COVID happen?
Something.
Then.
Yes,
That's
2020.
that's when you joined us. So we have some different levels of knowledge about the Star Wars Club in the room. So with that in mind, can everybody give a 30 to 45 second quick intro to your respective clubs and what makes you unique? So the costumes you cover, what you do, focus on the unique bits, 45 seconds or less.
The 501st is all of the canon bad guys and some gray area characters like Vader, Stormtrooper, etc. A few of the ones that have actually appeared in some form, comic book, movie, TV show. The Dark Empire is accepts canon Sith, non-Mandalorian bounty hunters, and smugglers. Thank you. But they also do custom of all 3 of those as well.
The Rebel Legion is the good guys, your Jedis, your X-Wing pilots, Wookiees, Ewoks, even though I know that's kind of a gray area there. Both canon and expanded.
Stormtroopers, so they're good guys.
Depends on who's being eaten. But just good guys. Really easy. Okay.
The Mandalorian Mercs, as the name sounds, we approve custom and canon Mandalorian characters from all walks of the universe of Star Wars. And that's what we cover.
Saber Guild covers Force users, specifically the dichotomy of Jedi and Sith. And what makes us special is we do lightsaber choreography and then kids trainings as well.
Perfect. Great. So, and this is something that can go to any of y'all. We don't need to necessarily go down the line, so whoever wants to take this. But this is a Star Wars convention. We have seen a lot of people in costume walking around. So why would somebody want to join one of these costuming clubs? What sets it apart rather than just wearing the costume they have at events like this?
I can take it if you'd like.
Oh, look at you. So the legions are, all the various clubs are allowed by Lucasfilm to do what we do. And the reason that they allow it is because we are all nonprofits. None of us get paid in any way, sort, or form for doing this. And and that being said, we get to do a lot of really cool things with their okay. We get to do hospital visits, Make-A-Wish reveals, Texas Ranger Star Wars night, all different kinds of conventions. And while I love Star Wars costuming in general, I think it's a great thing. And I love seeing all the fun things that you can do at con that or maybe never would ever come near being in a movie, but they're super awesome. But the screen accuracy of the clubs opens up another whole window of opportunity and a way to represent Star Wars and take it to some really cool areas.
The chance to escort some of the stars that we grow up idolizing and see them come to conventions and do stuff for them in the mission of what we do overall for the community is really another good niche reason. If you need that extra besides just giving back to your community, you have that opportunity at times.
And there's also the big LFL sponsored events that we get chances to do things. Every now and again, they will let us do sports games. Saber Guild has done the FC Dallas, so we performed at their Star Wars night, at the stadium there in between at halftime. That was a lot of fun. And there's baseball games that you guys do, and there's some football games too.
Hockey.
So speaking of the interesting things that we get to do as club members and the opportunities that some of this can afford, I think we have a quick interruption to this panel. So Brian, Chandler, and Becca Price, I will let you guys take it from here, and we will come back to our formal programming in just a minute.
Where's the Imperial March when you need it?
Yeah. I was going to say we could have the Zoo guy. We could just...
Stage center, come on.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Hi, everyone.
For those who don't know, this is Dimitri Koss. Dimitri, for your contribution to the Star Wars universe and the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, on behalf of the 501st Legion, Star Garrison, and North Texas Squad, we would like to officially induct you as an honorary member of the 501st Legion.
Oh my God. Thank you guys so much. Crate Fleet Detachment. That's the detachment for all the Tuscans. Yeah, man. Very cool. And? Oh my God.
Not quite done yet.
Nope, I'm Ryan. I'm the Kessel-based commanding officer for Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And it is my pleasure to induct you in as a member of the Rebel Legion. Oh man, that's so bad. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
We appreciate what you do for the community. Stop by the booth later on. We'd love to take a photo with you there as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Which one do you guys look at?
We're the big Star Wars exhibit, like a village. We're all out there.
the very
at
back.
the very back.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Come by and see us later.
Cool. We'll do.
Thank you.
Oh man.
That was
Oh,
cool.
sick. Thank you guys.
Hey, just keep doing what you do. See, cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool stuff.
And
So-
cool people.
Out of all of the cool things that we get to do, this is a down the line question, and it doesn't matter who starts. What made you want to work with the Star Wars costuming clubs? So, first question. So, what made you want to come and join? And now, what makes you stay? Because what we do is a lot of work. So, what keeps that fire burning now?
I first learned about the Star Wars costuming clubs from the old Star Wars Insider magazines. I guess I don't even know if this is still a thing. I don't know when I last looked at a magazine, but I remember seeing the Legion members in the photos, and I was just like, it was incomprehensible that I would ever be a member. It was just like, wow, this is this really cool Star Wars thing that people do, and they wear screen accurate costumes, and I have no idea how to get from being a person who's never put together a costume in my life to being a member of this. It's not something I could ever do. In 2015, I went to Dallas Fan Expo and I realized that we had a local chapter. And I put together a Jedi costume, which is a little bit simpler than some of the other things. My second costume was a Stormtrooper costume, which is a lot. And it was really being a member of that community. It was absolutely community involvement. And I'd say the reasons to keep the fire burning, it's people. It's interacting with both our people in the club and out, and seeing the sheer joy that it brings to people. I mean, like doing a children's hospital visit and you go into the ICU and a kid is like, this is the best day of my life. A child who's in the hospital, when they see, Darth Vader walk into their room, that's a lot. It's very meaningful. I've done funerals if people ask us to do that, which is hard. They're some of the hardest events I've ever done. But I feel like if it means that much to someone, that Star Wars was that important in their life, and if it will bring something to their family to have us there, that it's important.
Coming off of that, wow. Pretty much the same reasons. I really can't recall when I first found out about the 501st Region and Rebel Legion. I spent a lot of time in the hospital as a kid, and just one of my earliest memories was being visited by Ronald McDonald, which was weird in itself, but when you're like 5 years old and you've been there for weeks, I remember it still to this day. And I somehow come across the Legions and I'm just like, okay, it's community outreach. That's cool. Hospital visits. That's really cool. So I get to go and, hopefully put a smile and maybe a lasting memory on a kid's face someday, that maybe when they get out and are good and healthy, they can turn around and do the same thing and bring joy to others. And I mean, I stay because I've met some fantastic people. I've gone from I can't sew to I'm building Ewoks and all sorts of things I didn't think I would ever in my lifetime get a chance to figure out how to build. And I've learned so many new skills, and I enjoy what I do, despite all the lack of sleep.
Well, in the 7 years I've been a part of the clubs, I started building 8 years ago, and I found the Mercs through the Texas Rangers Star Wars night. I love Star Wars. I would draw clone troopers because the Tartakovsky Clone Wars are what got me into it, and the T-visor was my thing. So imagine my surprise going to this Star Wars night, and then there's Boba Fett and 2 custom Mandalorians at the gate welcoming us to Star Wars night, and I'm like, why are these people here? And so I asked a question, and the one thing the blue Mandalorian could sputter out was MandalorianMercs.org. So I go to my seat, and I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there, baseball games playing, my family's hooping and hollering, and I'm like, there's a whole forum? These people dress up? When's the next time I get to go meet up at this armor party they're talking about? And so that's how I met them. It wasn't anything as altruistic as being in a hospital or something, but I stayed because once I got approved, my first troop was a Cook's Children Hospital visit. And I met a whole community of people that the helmet goes on and your heart's gone. You have that helmet on because it hides your face, because it just hits you and you realize you're giving back to these people a sense of hope, a sense of relief from whatever they're dealing with. And I've done funerals. I went down to Austin for one. I've done Make-A-Wish events where we revealed to a family that they beat the what they were fighting and sent them off to Disney, and then inducted one into our own, gave him a whole costume. So that's what keeps it for me, is the people and the mission.
It's not hugely different for me. I was already doing some work with some smaller local groups where I was originally from in Tucson, Arizona, and I'd always run into the Star Wars guys that were there, and I ended up just getting to know them anyway because we were always at the same one con that occurred in Tucson, Arizona every year. And there's also a big one up in Phoenix too, but it just kind of kept running into them, and I kept running into them. I'm like, I really like Star Wars, and I really like how cool the costumes look, and so I started getting involved. And then I really discovered how much more they do beyond the conventions, because I had no idea. I'd only ever seen the conventions at that point, and it just one thing led to another. And now I very much love when I get to see someone's reaction, and then they are just so excited to be involved in whatever we happen to have going on. Because we do the kids trainings, we have anywhere from 3 to 20 kids. We're teaching them how to swing sabers, and then we hand out crystals when they're done. And then I get to be the Sith that comes out, and you're like, and then fight the Jedis, and the kids save the day. It's just great. I love it.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, by all means.
The kids make it. The magic happens through the eyes of the children, and it just makes all the sleepless nights, the early mornings, the the stress of times, because it's fun, but it is stressful to a degree. You have to plan stuff, and planning is always stress. Anyone can agree to that. But the kids make it worth it for sure.
So I think Gareth brought up a very good point there at the end of like one of the things that's his favorite parts. And I know for me, because I'm also a member of Saber Guild, man, it is so fun at parades when crowds get bloodthirsty. Like we'll be fighting and like, because we're usually in the back so that we can meter our spacing. And like you guys will come through and there will be cheers and then they will see a fight break out. And it is so quick how those people go to kill him, kill him. Like I'm a Jedi, guys. I'm not gonna. No, you go, girl. Kill him, defeat him, kick him where it hurts. No, the crowd can be bloodthirsty. It's great. But on that note, so favorite memories. So what is your favorite memory from a troop or the most impactful moment you have had while in costume supporting one of these events? I think that what we miss often when we talk about the clubs is the stories. So what's a story that hits you? And we don't have to go in order, just whoever wants to take it first.
I think I'd put that into my last response. I kind of bled those two. I didn't realize that was coming. So I'm sorry. I'll let Rebecca go first. She's been going first the whole time.
That's fine. The most impactful one I've ever done was a child's funeral, and his little brother, we were mainly there for him. It was like a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and the 8-year-old had passed away, and the 6-year-old, and his favorite characters were Darth Vader and Boba Fett, and we made sure we had both. And I was a Stormtrooper, and we stood there for an hour at the back of a room at parade attention while the family came up and paid their said their goodbyes. Family crying and all that, and how thankful they were at us being there made it worth it. Now, that being said, we say all these things, hospital visits. That's not why everyone joins. Some people join purely because it's cool costuming. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of people in the Legion that or some people want the merch. You've seen we have patches and coins and stuff. There's a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of different reasons, stuff. And there's no wrong reason to join the Legions. If that's not what appeals to you about it, there's still plenty of other things in the Legions.
Like I said, I joined because of costumes. I didn't even know the charity stuff was as big as it was until afterwards. And I love it, but
come for the costume, stick with charity.
Exactly.
Come
for the
yes.
I've done numerous hospital visits and everything's great. Anywhere where there's a little kid that seems to be scared, because a lot of times I wear an Ewok and they're just like, because they see a gigantic bear and they're going, oh no, what is this? But I've installed dog squeakers in the ears of my Ewok, and usually squeaking that will get a reaction. If not, they can get them to at least pet the fur on there. Probably one of my favorite troop memories is our polar plunges that are starting to become a tradition, where few crazy people will throw ourselves bodily in costume into freezing cold water for a good cause, for the Special Olympics of Texas. And this coming year will be our 3rd round of it, which I'm still thawing out.
I think we did 3 last year and 4 this year, I believe.
Y'all are braver than me.
It's a lot of fun.
I've already got enough blubber, but I don't want to test it. It works.
I wear Shadow Trooper.
It depends on what you're wearing. I've done it in Stormtrooper. It's not too bad.
We do not. I don't wear like the abdomen plate and stuff because I got to be able to swim. And the first year we did it, I was in full gear going down a water slide. Helmet back like this. So of course I hit the water and water just goes whoosh, up into my helmet. Not a smart idea. And thankfully we had divers there.
Wow.
Yeah, lessons learned.
I remember stories from that one and you going down like a rock.
Yeah, I almost drowned.
So Scuba Trooper. Do you have a patch for that?
I need to get one now.
You need to get a Scuba Trooper. So I'm going to change the gears a little bit. Impactful, I think for me personally, my personal impact would be I traveled to Florida this last year for MegaCon 2024. And I knew Florida is where Star Wars goes big, but being there with 98 other Mandalorians kitted up, and we did the Death March, which is where we honor those that have fallen in the last year, and we make our rounds around the con, and we kind of beat a drum, make some noise, chant, whatnot. But you've got 98 Mandalorians in 2 parallel just columns just down the con floor, and people move out of your way. And then you all gather up and circle up, and there's one person in the middle, and they deliver the speech, who we're here for, what the process is, and thank everyone for coming. And then you turn around and you go back, and you just see people stopping and staring. And it was just, the numbers just magnified the impact. And that was probably it hit me that there's 98 other people here in this armor sweating through it like I am. And we're all doing the same thing for the same reason. But that one sticks with me as the most impactful right now, just to change this pace.
No, it's pretty impactful. That's awesome. Yeah. So for me, I would say it was probably a Make-A-Wish event that we did a while back, because it was this massive, organized, choreographed event where they were doing a gala for the Make-A-Wish kids, and one of them got to have their wish revealed. And the way we set it up was essentially we blew into this gala in the middle of the proceedings with the Inquisitors chasing the Jedi. And basically we had this multiple fight thing going on throughout all the tables in this event. And then the Inquisitors beat the Jedi, and then Darth Vader comes in and says, "I want the child." And then this whole, they had done we had done a training for all the kids ahead of time, so they knew kind of our little thing that we do.
Specifically so that the one wish kid wouldn't know what was coming.
So we did, yes, it was great. And so then he got to save the day by defeating the head Inquisitor. And then Vader is just like, "You may have won this day," and then he reveals the wish, which is the kid wanted to go to Disneyland. So it was this whole elaborate reveal, and it was great. And I loved
Garrett,
it.
how much time did that take to prepare for?
That was quite a blur of time, so I'm not sure I have a distinct memory, but we were working on that for months.
Weren't there 6 fights going on
Yeah, there were
simultaneously?
6 simultaneous fights.
And then you
going
had
on.
the other clubs come in on the
and
side.
it was also a live orchestra.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
live orchestra. I
They
think
had a live
we rehearsed
orchestra.
with the orchestra
Once.
once.
Right before.
An hour before.
An hour before. Up until that point, we just had the recording of the music that wasn't even a real recording. It was just a synth recording of the music that we were trying to time everything to.
Yeah,
so we had
every
to time
fight-
all the fights.
All fights
To
had to end
end.
within 15 seconds of one another.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was a lot, but it was well worth it. It was so much fun.
that one was a lot.
And the look on that kid's face, he was so ready. By the end, he was just like, "I can do this," and he did the whole thing, and there was not a single hesitation for him.
Yeah, no, we had a Jedi up there that was supposed to coach him through it. He did not need that Jedi.
No, he
No,
was ready.
no, he was so ready.
He built the walls and did his force push.
He did.
He did.
He built that house of safety.
Yep.
So since we did talk through these answers about the other things that we do and the other reasons why people may join, let's get back to the costuming part of it. Nicole, you mentioned not knowing how to sew when you started this, and now sewing Ewoks. So what are some of the skills that it takes to put a costume together, and what didn't you know when you started that you know now?
I knew nothing going into this. I was like, what is a rivet? And of course, I'm thinking like Rosie the River, these big things. I'm like, that can't be right. When I first started, I was 501st first. I have a Stormtrooper that was my first kit. And I probably spent a year just learning, researching, but that's me as a person in nature because I do engineering stuff. So I want to know before I dive into it, because you can think you know everything and you can prepare, and then you get that big brown box in the mail and you're looking at it going, oh man, what do I do?
It's very imposing.
It is intimidating to all be, and just that first cut, you're always kind of, okay, do I want to do it right? Do I want to mess it up? I don't want to mess it up. But the really good thing, I mean, I'm a GML with the 501st release in Star Garrison. I do costume judging.
What does GML mean?
GML, sorry, it stands for Garrison Membership Liaison. So basically, when you're ready with your costume, you submit it. My group of people will look through it and coach you if anything needs to be changed and get you approved and go through all the stuff. It's hard to explain it, but
You did good. You did good. You're fine.
But honestly, I always stress that, I mean, you can immediately just jump in anything, just like buy what pieces you want. But doing that kind of research and just kind of reading, going, okay, and meeting members, coming to the armor parties and stuff, it teaches you things. I just, even going to armor parties, I've learned skills like weathering from Chris, who's in the corner playing with something. Hi. He has taught fantastic techniques that I never would even thought about when doing things. I'm rambling. Help.
Well, I'm gonna cut in then
There you
because
go.
you've got the sewing and stuff hit. I came in not even knowing how to use power tools, honestly. Like I had never used a jigsaw, never used anything. And Mandalorians 7-8 years ago, 3D printing wasn't as big here locally. We use a material called Sintra. It's expanded PVC board, and it's a thermoplastic. So you can dunk it in boiling water. You can hit it with a heat gun and shape it and form it to what you need. So you have to use sandpaper, Dremels, cutting tools, and you shape it and move it. And I was able to take that skill and apply it to my wife and I's first kids. And it took us probably 6 months to get everything knocked out. And then my wife sewed everything. So we both learned and developed through it. And here we are 8 years later. This is my third costume. It's primarily 3D printed, which brings you into a whole different aspect of skills, but you still have to have the basic foundation to learn to do.
Mhm.
So the question was, what have I learned?
Mhm.
I've learned that you need to invest in really good sandpaper and wear a respirator.
Eye protection helps too.
Oh,
Eye
dude, yes.
protection,
yes.
if you're using a heat gun, the heat
Gloves.
gloves, because you will burn yourself. I still have scars all over my hands because I didn't do it the first time. Because ABS, the big brown box kits you get, sometimes you have to heat form it to fit you either, out a little bit if you're more broad or in. And I had to cut pieces to fit me, which I am 4'11". I am very tiny for a stormtrooper. But getting to that point and using that heat gun, please use safety first.
There's a hobby, and then there's these tools you need to support the hobby. So make sure you take into account for that.
Yes.
What about you?
So I technically started learning to sew before I joined the clubs, but it was still costume related. But I didn't really dive into the idea of doing something as screen accurate until so the first costume that I had was not mostly made by me. It was Return of the Jedi Luke. And then I started gradually switching over to making as many of the things as I could myself. And then eventually I make most of the things that I wear. But there were so many things that I had to just figure out by myself, because I'm not always the person that goes and reads tons of manuals before I do something. I just start doing something, and then as I fail, I realize, I should have done it a different way, and then I know for the future.
I feel like our solution is sometimes throw money at it.
Sometimes.
Like
Sometimes.
we're just gonna dive in, and I guess we could buy another sheet of Sintra if we need to, which is not necessarily the advice. Like Nicole's method is much better.
But because we have all of these different people doing all these different methods, when somebody new comes in, it's just like, here's 50 million different ways you can do it.
Mhm.
What feels right to you? As long as you don't information
dump.
overload.
Yep.
Yeah.
Info dumping is a thing.
But there were definitely a level of sewing that I never thought I would get to. Like, I went from struggling to put a vest together for like the old school original series Star Trek Klingon, which I barely managed to do, to making an Imperial officer uniform. And that was like, I never thought I would get to that point. Not in a million years. But
On
you
the
just kept
leather
going.
working, you picked up leather.
And then
working.
leatherworking, I ended up making Han Solo's belt a few times, and that got me into just liking to make custom stuff. I like doing the leather work. I had the kits, the Mando kits that we have too. It was a lot of fun doing leather for that. So just when you find the skill and you like it and you can make it, you also have a lot of other people. So we can trade work skills. If there's just stuff that I really can't deal with, but I know someone else who does, I'm just like, hey, let's help build some stuff. So
It's a galactic alliance for a reason. We all work together. We all share tools, knowledge, and time and living spaces when it comes to build days.
right.
Yeah.
What about you, Rebecca?
My first costume that I was approved in the Rebel Legion was a Jedi, and like you said, I didn't make it. I purchased a Jedi costume from someone who knew how to sew. My second costume that I did was the Stormtrooper, and I had very, very little knowledge of even like power tools, like you mentioned. Like, so learning how to use the belt sander to make, smooth edges on armor and all the shaping and forming and heat and all that. And it took me several months, probably, I think it was about 3 or 4 months to put the Stormtrooper costume together, which was, I did on my own, which was silly, because if I'd really realized that there was so many people locally in the Legion that could have helped, I could have had it done a lot smoother and a lot quicker and better. But I built a Shadow Trooper last year, which is the exact same thing as a Stormtrooper except for black instead of white. And I, from start to finish, was done in like 28 days. And that was, so the skill level, the skill set from 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago versus now, it's a lot.
As someone who's never built a Stormtrooper, I hear that the snap plates are the funnest part.
And you know what's great? When you do polar plunges, your snap plates rust and you have to replace them.
Yep. I have to replace all of mine.
I hate making snaps.
What's a snap plate? Just for
so there are multiple for things like attaching the Stormtrooper costume to fit you. Obviously, in order to do the Legion, the costume has to fit you personally correctly, and so you've shaped and formed it and whatnot, made sure everything's the right size. And then it all has to attach. And there's different ways of doing that. Some people use more Velcro. Some people use more elastic. But primarily you're going to use probably at least some snaps, which involves, putting button snaps together. And unless you own one of those industrial grade button snapping machines, which most average people don't.
We want one. It's the next tool on the list.
If you make one, I make them make all my snap plates at your house from now on.
You're my best friend.
Because currently I basically make them in a garage with a hammer and a snap tool, and
That's how we do it. Yeah.
it is it's not a good time.
And how many rivets have gone completely crazy and you had to pull them out and do it again?
Yeah,
At least 60% of them.
Yeah.
And it's on a good day.
So I have a whole list of questions that I could go through, and so we will fill time. However, I want to turn it over to the audience before we go down our rabbit hole. Who has questions for us? We've given you the intro. We've given you some stories. What questions do you have? And that can be for the whole panel or an individual person. Yeah.
This would be for the panel. If somebody's in this group, right? Do y'all get a list of events for that month and y'all pick and choose those events, the ones that you can make to, or how does that work? Like, do they reach out to you personally, or do they put it out there?
That sounds like a Becca.
That sounds
That
like
is
a
a
Rebecca
good-
question.
yeah.
Was everybody able to hear the question? Do I need to repeat? Thumbs up. Able to hear the question. Okay, great. Becca, over to you.
So, for if someone wishes to request the Legion's attendance, there's a couple of different ways of doing it. A lot of people go through just 501st.com. There also have some local links. Like if you stop by our table, there's a QR code that goes to a little bit more direct local link. But so we will get an event request. They can go if they fill out a form that says, I'm having X event on X date. Here's the info. Here's let's say a school event. School.
Booster club meeting.
Sure, booster club meeting. And so they'll say, hey, can you come to our booster club meeting? We would like members here from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on July 31st or whatever. And what we do is we post it up for our members. As long as there are a handful of events a year, very small amount actually, that get automatically turned down because they're not something that Lucasfilm would allow us to do. Usually it's something like if somebody requests us to attend a bar, it's May the 4th at the bar and we're having Star Wars themed drinks. Can your characters come be here? No, I'm sorry. Lucasfilm doesn't let us take photos with alcohol. That's not going to be an appropriate venue. But that is very few and far between. For the most part, we get, here in North Texas alone, we get around 175, 180 requests a year that we do accept. And so they all get posted onto our forums and Facebook and whatnot. The various different clubs share events slightly different ways. And our members pick and choose depending on their own availability. Most of the clubs do require, in order to stay an active member, that you do at least one event a year in costume, or some of them, like the Rebel Legion, you may be able to do it, and is helping out in a racing shirt, helping out a table or whatnot. But it doesn't require a huge amount of time. one event a year to stay active. That's it, you know. And that's what some people do, especially different times of their life, you know, depending on, you know, how busy they are and what they've got going in their family and whatnot. Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
So I heard armor parties mentioned earlier when I went to go to the Mandalorian thing. And also, what is a build day? What is that?
Build days and armor parties are pretty much the same thing. It depends on your nomenclature or the naming convention the group uses. Mercs, we call it armor parties. Build days can be just a generalized term. And generally what happens is someone volunteers their home space, their garage, their shop, their tools, and they say, hey, open invite, everyone such and such date from 9 to 5, come hang out, come build stuff. We'll do grilled burgers or something, and everyone brings something to eat, and it becomes a fellowship event as well as an educational event where we can teach and share techniques.
And if you're interested in joining, we do have the QR codes and whatnot back at the table, and we invite. I highly recommend that if you're interested in joining, attending an armor party, even if you have no idea what you want to build yet. They're a great way to see what kind of costumes are out there. They're a great way to get an idea of what is involved in the building process, getting ideas, things you may never even thought of, and just meeting members too.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So I got one more question. For example, you got the flight suit. Is that machine washable, or most of them machine washable?
Yes. In this case, this is I'll stand up so you can see me. I got my flight suit because I do not sew very well, and I haven't bothered anyone else. This is from Sky. It's a Halloween costume manufacturer, and it's just the Din Djarin season 1 flight suit, and it had some fake rubbery armor on it that I seen ripped off. And then I repurposed it, dyed it another couple of colors, and then tailored it to me by, pardon me, you can see the sleeve is shortened because this was for like a 6'2" person and I'm 5'5". So I took the sleeve out, but it is machine washable. However, the weathering techniques I use are acrylic based. So if I were to wash this with machine wash, all my paint would go away. So what I do is I mix isopropyl alcohol and water in a spray bottle, and I use that to spray down the costume after I wear it, and it kills the bacteria that keeps the smells out of it, mostly.
What is the name you got of the place you got this from?
Sky. I can tell you about it later if you want to come back by the booth, and I'll make sure you get the right thing.
And just as a funny aside, Gareth, would you like to say what Saber Guild likes to say is the other benefit of the isopropyl alcohol spray in between days of a con?
Yes. It is anti.
Well, no, it's that. So we joke.
When we are done at, especially doing any of our choreographed fights or whatnot, and just like everyone who's in the heavier costume gets
very sweaty.
Very sweaty.
So if you spray yourself down, your costume down at the end of the day, and you're wearing the same costume the next day, you can pretend that it is damp the next morning because you sprayed it down.
Yep.
It's not because you sweated through it before. It's definitely the spray didn't dry.
I'm in 4 layers right now, just in case you need to know.
Yep.
It's very nice and very well worn.
Sleeveless for the win.
I'm not going to talk to you right now.
What other questions do we have? Go for it.
What's been y'all's favorite accessory to build? And can you tell a little bit about the construction of that accessory?
Oh, I'm jealous for you guys.
Oof. Well, I've really gotten into building Ewoks. It's kind of become a fun accessory, and it seems every build that I have starts out as a joke amongst a few people. Hey, you should build that. Yeah, I'll do it. And then the engineering brain starts going, how can I do this? And that has now progressed to building little walklings, which have been the little baby Ewoks.
There's some in a basket if you come by the booth. They're, they're by the Biker Scout.
Yeah, and I mean, it's basically a baby doll base that I've kind of figured out to build. I sculpted out the nose, hair punched the face, made them little jammies and stuff. And it's always fun figuring out those things. And it's going to progress onto other things. I know it is, because another joke will hit and I'll end up building something else. But currently they're my favorite things, because you build something, and again, an artist, you look at something that you've done until you hate it. I haven't got to that point yet. Give it another week.
Give it another week?
Give it another week.
So I want to make sure I understand your question. By accessories, like, are you talking like something on what we have, or are you talking like a tool we use to build, or what are you trying to?
Like a belt or a piece of armor
Okay.
That you carry, things like that.
Honestly, the most. I don't build very many things more than once. Just because when I go through all the process of making it, it's very hard for me to go back and do the same thing again, yay ADHD. So, but one of the ones that I felt the most satisfaction after finally putting together and making it look good was my Han Solo belt. Because there was so much time spent getting the details, trying to figure out how it all got laid out, and then just everything about that whole build was enough that I actually got myself to build a second one because every single belt is slightly different with each movie Han Solo's in. So it's one of the few things that I've actually built more than one of because I thought of, well, now I have this, I can make this a little bit easier, I can make this a little bit better. So the iterative process was fun. And that's true when I make like more custom stuff too, because it's different, but I'm still using that same basic idea of how do I make this leather conform to my personal standards of quality.
On that same note, with my kit, I'm wearing this comma is what it's called. It's like a battle skirt. It's made of 14 different pieces of leather, and I had never done leather working before. And I hand punched every single hole with a metal punch and a hammer over the course of 6 days. And I love it. It's my favorite thing, but I'm never doing it again. It was the little 6-prong Amazon Basics starter chisel that after 4 punches, they bend. So I ended up taking a soldering iron, and I put a soldering iron, and I individually did every hole. And then I had to double layer it because it's layered depth of leather. You can look at it later. I'll let you stare at my butt. Sorry. But
Try a dry punch with some beeswax.
I'm never making this again. I will pay somebody before I do this again, but I appreciate your advice. I will take it back to my people. But it is my favorite piece because it is the one I put the most of my soul into, and you never see it because it's behind me. But that's my favorite accessory, and it's just the story, the effort, and the stress. Because it was so rewarding when it was done, and everyone like that saw it whenever I made the process and got it finally done, appreciated it and knew the work that went into it. But I'm sitting here like, all of you knew, and no one warned me that this was going to be this way. You let me do it. And that's what friends are for.
Becca?
I don't know that I really have a major favorite accessory. Probably one of my favorites that I've worked on personally was my the blaster for Iden Versio that I have, which was a 3D print file, and so all the sanding and
More sanding.
fill and then sanding and then sanding and then sanding. And
What about your bobbin? Don't you have a bobbin?
I do, but it doesn't really have an accessory.
Well, isn't the bobbin itself an accessory? Like,
I don't know.
tell us about that. I want to know about it.
There's a picture from Celebration of all the Jedi, and then there's her with the Jedi Bothan laying dead out in front of all them. Because
One Bothan died to bring you this photo.
yes.
I think that's the most iconic thing that when I think of your costumes, it's your bobbin, and then I think your, of course, I'm going to drop the name, the bounty hunter, Carrie Fisher's bounty hunter.
Ah, yes, Bush.
Yes, the Mighty Boosh. But that's not your favorite, but I'm just letting you know that I appreciate those.
The Bush is one of my favorite costumes by far.
Good.
It's just hard to wear.
Yes.
Other questions from our audience? Yes.
So this stuff gets hot. So like, do y'all have fans? Do you have like ice skating equipment? You know, like, what do y'all do to stay cool?
My solution is get to exhaustion.
Yeah, I've had heat exhaustion a couple of times.
Miss Moderator, could you tell us about your Ewok Mandalorian, please?
Yes,
Oh,
that needs to
the
come
Ewok
out.
Mandalorian.
This
So the one
conversation.
that you, sir. Okay. So I have an Ewok. Like Nicole, I was foolish enough to become the only. I'm still the only one, right, Matt?
Mhm.
The only Mandalorian Ewok approved in the MMCC. My head is made, or my helmet is made out of a trash can.
There's a comic that inspired all of
Yeah,
it.
so it's a push lid, like flip lid trash can, and you rotate the flip lid, and then you have like this cool mohawk thing and ear holes. It was great. That thing is so hot. The first time I wore, not even it with the armor, just the Ewok itself Somebody dragged me outside for a ASPCA.
Oh, that was me.
They wanted the Ewok to play with the puppies. The puppies were not thrilled with that.
The Ewok wasn't either.
No, the Ewok wasn't either. It was July
5
at the
minutes.
Irving Convention Center. I was hot. They were hot. They didn't like me. I didn't like being barked at. It was not fun for anybody. And I think I got back to the booth. I was already seeing black spots. I just ripped the head off and chucked it. At that point, like, I had spent probably 60 hours just building this head from scratch, and I just figured somebody would catch it. They did. Love friends. I just tossed it to the side, and I remember slamming my hands down on the table just to, like, catch a breath and kind of tripod pose, and looked up in time to see the paramedics make eye contact with this man, because they had been talking to him, make eye contact with me, and just walk around the booth all casual-like, and then I didn't get to leave their care for 40 minutes. Because, ma'am, I won't leave until your color returns back to normal. One more bottle of water, please.
You're welcome.
It does depend, though. A lot of the people do put small helmets inside, small fans inside the helmets, especially in the helmets. Some of the helmets, there's really not any space for. They're so form-fitting and tight. Yeah. I know a lot of the Mandalorian helmets are like that. There's not really enough space for helmets or for fans in the helmet.
Canon characters tend to suffer because they have to fit to a specific.
There's a few that, like, with her Ewok, she has the rechargeable neck fan, and it even has like cool plates that are on the back and the side that help a little bit. I know one of our Darth Vaders recently moved away, but he had the same thing that he would wear with his Darth Vader. And we. I don't know that we really have anybody that regularly wears an ice vest.
No,
I think most of us just get really hot.
I know of one in
we just sweat.
Missouri that
But
does.
you definitely could. I mean, as long as it would fit under the costume and still fit and look correct, that could definitely wear an ice
Well, there's
vest.
time limits too. Like, some of the people they'll troop for 1 hour and then go to the back room and take as much off as they can to not overheat.
And the Mandos instituted a timer with me. So I kitted up in the Ewok. If I put the armor on, I have a little bit more time now. If it's just the Ewok itself, we added some fans. But the Mandos will start a timer. Like, somebody handling for me, because Ewoks can't see very well, will literally have a countdown going on their phone, and when the buzzer goes off, they make me get down. But a lot of our costume characters will do that. Like, if people learn their limit, say, I can do this for an hour, I can do this for an hour and a half, I can do this for 2 hours, but then, like, I'm gonna be drinking water, getting out of costume, cooling down for a little bit. So there's that trade-off. If you can't have fans or you don't have a cooling system, you get really, really good at learning those limits and how those limits will adjust to the temperature that you're in. And when not to put the costume on. Like at an outdoor event in the summer.
Yeah.
Other questions? You guys have had some really good ones. Keep them coming.
We're at time.
Oh, we are.
Wait, one more, maybe one last question.
Perfect.
We gotta run.
Yes.
What's the visor?
This visor, is a grinder shield from Harbor Freight. It's the clear ones that you put on. It's got a yellow headband. It's like $5 with limo tint from a local tint shop that was given to me because I asked. And this one was a horrible. It's kind of crinkly. It looks good from a distance, but it's soapy water, and then I put the tint over it and then cut it to form fit my helmet. So really affordable way to do it. You can buy them pre-made, or you can buy like welding shields, usually shade 5s. Any darker and you risk not being able to see. But grinder shield and some tint.
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to our panelists. Round of applause for them.